Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're catching up with Jace Hudson from Fastlife Garage and Podcast. Jace is a pivotal figure in the custom motorcycle scene, known for his hands-on approach to bike building and his candid conversations on the Fastlife podcast, where he dives deep into the lifestyles and stories of fellow bikers. In today's episode, Jace will share his journey through the motorcycle world, discuss the evolution of Fastlife Garage, and reveal how his podcast has become a platform for community and discussion within the biking industry. So let's gear up and get the inside track from Jace Hudson right here on the One Gang podcast.
That I heard from a photographer that I'm a big fan of is he wants to inspire, not influence. And that's kind of something I try to keep in mind.
Hey, One Gang. If you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications on to hear when new episodes are dropped too. Any of your engagement supports the show and helps us book great guests and keeps us going. If you or a friend would make a great guest, hit us up at cyclesworldwide.com or drop a comment. Thank you guys so much.
One Gang Worldwide podcast, brought to you by Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping. Since 1978, Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping has been the trusted name in transporting motorcycles safely across the country. With custom designed pallets, is secure and protected every step of the way. By choosing Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping, you're supporting a dedicated small business that prioritizes quality and customer satisfaction. Ship with a peace of mind, knowing your motorcycle is in expert hands.
Please visit shippingmymotorcycle.com. That's shippingmymotorcycle.com. And now, back to our show.
All right, what's up, guys? We got a great show today. We got Jace Hudson from the Fastlife Garage and the Fastlife podcast. Jace, welcome, brother. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for giving us the time.
I appreciate it. And glad we were able to make this happen and that hurricane didn't wipe you guys out.
Oh, man. That was a mess. What a mess.
Amen.
Crazy.
All right, so the way we start most of them out, we get into your early days. So what was young Jace like, and were there any flashes of that creativity?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In young
besides
Jace?
being an insecure little bitch, for the most part.
That's a first
This is
on
gonna
the
be a
show,
good
bro.
episode.
Nobody started like that, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I was cooler when I was younger, but obviously it's, you're learning how to become an adult. But no, I grew up in, I like to draw. I'm not particularly great at it, but it's being creative has always been like a part of like what I want to do. I wanted to be in architecture growing up. I kind of studied that in high school, was about to go to college for it. Got real lucky that I had an internship job as a draftsman or a helper to a draftsman. And I realized that I did not want to work in an office.
Cool.
Grew up in a body shop. I hated it. Never wanted to touch paintwork or mechanics or anything like that. I was kind of a...
Was that something family-owned business?
Yes.
Or
my grandfather, my mother's dad, taught my dad how to paint. And he used to restore cars and like do collision work and stuff like that. And I didn't like it. It was just dirty. It was messy. And I played sports, and in the 90s, it was all about having like really cool shoes and dressing like it was like the beginning. Hip hop. Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you really think about it, like the 90s was when logos became a thing on clothes. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Late 80s into the 90s, it was all about like if you had these clothes and you were said cool or whatever. Or in the clique.
I know, that's crazy.
So yeah, I was a victim of that because I went to a school where that kind of shit was valued, if you will. But yeah, I grew up in the body shop.
Where'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a suburb of Dallas called Duncanville.
Oh, Dallas. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And very, very big sports town. We have a lot of my high school in general has produced a lot of NFL, MLB, and NBA players.
Nice.
And I played basketball there. Cool. Unfortunately, once I hit 5'9", I never grew another inch.
Welcome, brother.
No.
So I had big dreams of playing basketball, and I did pretty well all the way up until like sophomore year, and then I just kind of realized that growing was not going to be a part of my future, and just it was just going to be hard, and life got a little bit hard on my family side of it at the time, and I started focusing on, like I said, the architectural thing. It was drafting design at the time, was switching to computers from paper and pencil, and
Right.
I had a great teacher, man. Like to this day, I think one of the best teachers ever that really just like kind of like leaned into me, if you will, like made me feel like what I was doing was pretty cool and could be a thing if I continue to focus and apply myself, if you will. So,
Right.
yeah, I had a great teacher, but the design thing, like working in architecture was kind of a the glossy dream was, man, I'm going to get to design buildings and houses and cool shit. And then the reality is you're not designing shit. You're just taking already designed things and making them work within the county or town or whatever. Like there's not really, and then
so you're not scratching that.
So
creative
what was
itch.
it? Was that industrial?
Well,
Industrial design or
like, so
commercial?
The firm that I worked for was doing like hotels, like your Motel 6s and Holiday Inns and stuff. And basically these are franchise places that have plans already. Oh, you want to buy this place? Well, this is our designs that we have for this time.
Right.
And then your job is to make it all work within the place that you're going to be placing it, whether that's, so it just revealed that wasn't, that I didn't want to do that,
Understand.
I really wanted to get into.
Do you?
Go ahead.
Bro,
I wanted to get into construction. I thought that would be a better way to scratch that itch of creating something and then using my hands to actually make it come to reality. But
Yeah. Well, do you remember your first experience as far as like any moments that stand out with motorcycles or cars as you were transitioning into that world of custom?
Yeah, honestly, man, I've talked about it a lot on my podcast over the years, but I remember I was working in that architectural office and the movie Fast and Furious came out, the first one. And, I was like,
yes,
that shit looks cool, because all of my world that I grew up in the automotive side of things, it just didn't appeal to me. It was like we were working on cars that were not obtainable or, it's like I said, I didn't grow up poor, but I also didn't grow up rich or middle class. I'm kind of like toted the line, if you will. And so a Honda Civic or a Nissan 240 was an attainable car. A WS6 Trans Am was not, so it was easy to fall in love with like these import cars that were pretty readily available and you could get for $1,000 and then, make it pretty quick, so that thing changed my perception of working in a shop and working on cars. And when I watched that, then I left that and went back to work with my dad because I wanted to paint. I wanted to be, all the shit I learned out of child labor. Now I'm like wanting to apply it and be better at it, and then I quickly, I think one inherent gift that I have is I have a really good ability to get to the middle of whatever I want to be a part of within that scene. So in Dallas, we had a pretty good scene of like high end import car builds. And within like 2 or 3 months of me getting into it, next thing you know, I'm hanging out with the people that kind of the guys, if you will, the people that are making it happen in Dallas. And next thing you know, I'm kind of painting. That was my in. Hey, I can paint cars. And then they kind of let you hang out at the cool kids table. Really, I wanted, I really wanted to be a mechanic. I wanted to like build like high end cars, like high end import, tuner cars and stuff like that. And, like I said, it kind of worked out, but that world just kind of, it was like 2002, 2001, 2003. And that was kind of like when they started outlawing street racing across America and trying to treat you like a fucking I don't know, like you just
Right,
robbed a
right.
bank or something like that. It's
I know,
insane.
I know,
Felon.
I know.
And you know what I was thinking about this within the last year? I miss like hanging out in parking lots with your car and other people. Like,
Yes.
man, I didn't have a drinking
Yes.
problem back then. I never drank at all. I was like, you know what? It's Tuesday. We're going to this park. We're going to Cole's parking lot.
Man, you chill, you hang,
Yeah.
bullshit. No, that's what it
Yeah.
was about. I think after COVID, man, that was the whole vision of shutting everybody down, keeping them separate. And, it's good to see sometimes, as you're talking about that, like when you're driving, you see a group of kids still hanging out. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Because normally they're on their phone, head down.
Yeah.
Nobody converses anymore. It's all through text message.
Yeah. And so back in the day or back in the early 2000s, like, yeah, we would go street race here and there, but that was just kind of like, that was one aspect of what we all did hanging out. But it was just a great way to network. I mean, I still know people from those parking lots, over 20 years later, that some of them kind of evolved into the motorcycle world. But like that space, I mean, that was just, I don't know, it was a time to be alive. It was like, it's similar to motorcycling where you're in a parking lot and now you're parked next to a doctor that has a badass Supra, that's all to the nines.
Right.
And he's actually having a conversation with you like you're a normal person, like you're on his level or whatever, And that's one thing I always loved about the motorcycle world is, when you go to the meetup to go on a ride, like you don't know who, I mean, eventually you know them, but usually you don't know these people. You don't know what they do,
Right.
And the classist range of like where people are in their life, like where else are you going to get to sit down and have mentors or potential mentors like this come into your life that easily? So
Good point, man. Good point.
That's a great point. Yeah. For us, I grew up in a small town.
yeah.
It was the Taco Bell parking lot, getting Mexican melts and stuff. So in this stage in your life, in this phase, were there any defining moments where you realized this was the path for you? Did you have any external affirmations, or did you just get your own kind of wings and confidence to realize that this is really what you love and you want to
I don't know
pursue?
if there was affirmations in any kind of way. I'm sure there was. I don't think I was tuned in to recognize them. I think for me, it was about finding a way to do something, but also, I had a daughter very young. So when I was 19, my daughter was born. So I kind of had this like huge responsibility to take care of a kid, but also trying to like chase, what I guess what was kind of a dream, but more or less it was just like, I would rather work on that car than go do this. So I'm going to try to figure out how to push myself in this place. Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of, like, back in early 2000s, I mean, the internet was still pretty crude. I mean, you had message boards and things like that. They were even still kind of clunky to today's standards for sure. But, usually you'd just be driving down the street and you'll see people in a parking lot and you're like, hey, I got to go introduce myself. So it's just this old school mentality of like, hi, my name's Jace. What are you guys doing? Can I hang out? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
like we did as kids when we walked out in the neighborhood.
And
for sure, man.
And like that came with you had to be ready to get, men, like we talk shit to each other. That's kind of like part of the hazing process for anybody that knew.
Of course,
and,
of course.
You had to be able to take that from the right people and give it back and do it respectfully and or whatever. But I mean, the same thing happened when I first got into motorcycles. Like I remember the first group that I ever rode with was it was at Taco Bueno. There was some bikes sitting in the parking lot, and I just said, hey guys, what are y'all doing? What y'all doing? I got a bike. Can I hang out? And he said, yeah, we meet here every Thursday and then we ride to this bike night. And I'm like, okay. So next Thursday I came out and fucking changed my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Hey, we didn't ask, what was your first bike?
My first bike was a Kawasaki ZX6R in 2004.
Killer.
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. I'm a Kawi guy too. I love Kawasaki.
I eventually
Great
became
bikes.
a Suzuki guy, but I
Did you went to the Gixxers?
They were just, easier and whatnot. But yeah, back in the day, man, it was just different. I mean, it's so different than now, and I wouldn't even politicize it in any kind of way. I would just say that the internet really changed the way that people communicate and connect. In some ways better, but also in equal amount of ways worse. You know, it took away. You back in the day, to meet people, you had to put yourself in a very vulnerable situation, which I know sounds kind of weird to talk about on a men's motorcycle podcast or whatever. But the thing is, like, you had to, if you wanted to be a part of something, you had to, like, the gatekeeping was a part of everything back in the day. You know, you didn't want to let fucking dumb people in, or you don't let people ruin the spot or ruin shit. So
of course.
gatekeeping was a necessary thing to keep fucking, keep things what they were. You know, if it's all inclusive, then people come in and they don't have the right intentions and they fuck everything up. You know what I'm saying?
Change the perception of what it's all about. Of course, man. Of course, yeah. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit to the birth of the Fastlife Garage. This is going to be a couple of part question, but let's start with this one. First of all, what inspired you to start your own shop?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before we hit record, that, it's really hard to work for somebody in this industry and grow, like, financially. Right. And it's not because of the individual brands or the builder's faults. It's there's not a whole lot of money in the motorcycle industry. Right.
Absolutely.
And when I got in the industry, there was probably the most money there's ever been in the industry. In 2004, there was so much money from cigarette brands and beer brands and everything across the board. They were just dumping money into the industry. So that's why you had these insane prices on bikes and these $150,000 builds from, brands all across the country. Well, when those guys were doing that, they were paying, $8, $9, $10, $12, $15,000 to paint choppers, like a frame and like 4 pieces,
Right. At that time, that was insane.
Yeah. So the people that were in a better position to capitalize on that at the time, those are the brands that really, like, became big powerhouses. You know what I'm saying? In the paint world, at least, in the bike world as well, too. But a lot of them, they tried to live that facade. They would buy an 18-wheeler to go to every show, and they would do this. And then when the industry I wouldn't say the industry crashed, when it leveled back out to reality in 2008, and the baggers became a bigger thing. There was a lot of people that didn't want to transition over to the newer models. And the ones that did, like your, Covingtons and Yappies and Arlen Ness, those guys,
Clockworks,
they stayed relevant in the spaces of creating motorcycles. Now, I'll give credit to the people that stayed true to, I'm a chopper builder, I'm a chopper guy, that's all I want to do.
Me too. I love choppers too, man.
I don't knock it, but there's multiple pathways there, right? For me, I was still a kid, I was still 24 years old, and I didn't quite have I didn't have the skills yet, the ability to command that kind of pricing from painting motorcycles,
Right.
So I kind of worked on and off a lot with the shop here in Dallas that kind of showed me how to paint custom, which was Other Side Customs, and they're still a shop here in Dallas and known as well. But yeah, I mean, it was just different then. And then as far as coming into my own space, like, basically when I worked for that Other Side Customs, when we were good, things were good. How do I word this? It got to a point where I was bringing in over $100,000 a year in my own, like, customers. And it was like most things, like, hey man, I need to make more than, $30,000 a year. Can I have a raise, or can we renegotiate? And he said there was no more money to spread across the board. So I was like, well, I mean, I guess I got to go start my own business now,
Right. Well, let me ask you this. This is kind of interesting. How did you, at that point, you started your shop. Now you're saying you're bringing in 6 figures painting bikes at this moment in time. How did you get into, like, was there a break? Or, like,
no,
how did you get into that you know, that level of painting? I mean, you must have been doing some fucking amazing work in order to be able to, because there was a lot of guys that started painting at that time more and more, you know, coming up. That's why I'm just curious. How did you get into that level?
Well, I would never say that it was, you know, I like how you say that level because it makes me feel like it was something of that level. But it was
no, but that's dude. But seriously,
then,
man, you're an incredible you're an incredible artist, man. Fuck it, I don't
thank
care
you.
what.
But back in 2004,
how did you know that level to get to that level being coming up?
Well,
I guess
because I
more
worked
my
at one of the high end paint shops in America, so I got to see what quality was and what it was. I wasn't capable of that quality yet. You know what I mean? I was still kind of learning. I mean, I was a cog in the machine at that guy's shop, you know?
Right.
So there was still a guy there that did great finish work. There was still a guy that cut and buffed badass. There was still a great body guy.
Right.
I was just the art guy. I was the guy that could lay out graphics and airbrush, right? Well, trying to catch up every aspect of being a painter to be at a quality level, that takes years. It's not, especially back then, there was no YouTube to, hey, this is how you do gold leaf or silver leaf. You know, you had to get magazines and get DVDs and watch them, and they'd always leave important things out that you had to figure out yourself. But for me, like, because I kind of, when I got the job working there, I immediately fell in love with motorcycles and started riding. Well, like I was saying at that Taco Bueno parking lot, like, I start riding to these places, and hey, I'm a painter. I'm in the middle of the fucking scene now. And but I'm on sport bikes, like
you're everybody's friend
exactly.
now, man.
And I'm on sport bikes, so that scene was not. Most of the people in the industry at that time wanted to paint choppers still, and I'm like, look, there's this whole market of motorcycles that they don't have. I'm not gonna say they didn't have. They're not gonna spend 10 grand to paint their bike, but they will spend 1,500 or 2,500. And at the time, that's kind of what I needed to survive and grow my business. And I mean, back in the day, I'd paint 60 bikes a year, you know, sport bikes, Hayabusas, Gixxers, Yamahas, like, but you know, it was cheap. I'm not charging nowhere near what I charge now. I'm nowhere near as good as I am now. And you grow and you charge more based on like the quality of work you provide and the kind of like back end, like security you provide. I mean, everybody's has a horrible painter story, you know. Oh, my painter, he's a pillhead. He's a drunk. He never goes to work. He doesn't manage his time right. Like, those are the things that, like, I charge for that kind of quality service. You know, like when you become like secure and the guy that, hey, look, I'm going to charge more than they do, but you don't have to worry about all the other bullshit because if I
what I tell you is what's going to happen.
Exactly. So. But back then, you know, like I said, you just kind of like you're learning how to do all these things. And that's what I see a lot of like newer age painters, you know, like they can get the skills up quick because of the available information, but they haven't had the time to learn how to deal with customers. They haven't had the time to learn how to not take on the jobs that they're not going to be able to please the customer. They're not going to be able to come through on the thing that they want. I mean, there's no like custom paint jobs, especially today, is the only thing specifically made for that bike. Everything else is off a shelf. You know what I mean? Like, there's still some handmade choppers out there, but then they don't ever want to paint them because they don't want to hide all the metal work they did, right? So, you know, you have this thing where like the paint job is still the handmade quality that's being applied to just almost every genre of motorcycling there is, but there's no shelf and this is this much, this is this much. It's like the thing people want to negotiate, you know? So you have to learn how to stand your ground and be like, yo, this is, you got to be okay with someone walking away, even if you need that money.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. That comes with age and wisdom. So can you take us into some of those early custom projects that you were working on? Were there any that felt like, you know, either a bike or a helmet that felt like it was a real turning point? Or was it all just more gradual?
The way I've always self-motivated is I would have a goal. All right, man, if I can get a Hayabusa, if I could paint one of those on my own, that's gonna give that's a canvas for my work that I don't have yet that I think is going to put me on the next level or get me another set of eyes. So for me, it was like I wanted to get in a magazine. I wanted I wanted to paint a Hayabusa. I wanted to paint this. I wanted to do that. And then as you start to reach them, like at the end of it on the back end, all the things that you said or you hope are going to happen don't really happen. But the way it motivated me each time to get the project done or like put my best foot forward, that's what I realized. Oh man, I like that feeling of chasing that goal or that what idea, if you will. And but yeah, so there's lots of those little things for me. I'm a very goal kind of guy. Like, you know, if I do this, then this will happen. And that's just how I like trick myself into doing shit, you know?
Right. That's cool. That's
right
cool.
on. Yeah. What were some of those other goals? So you had the Hayabusa and, you know,
I started like quickly
magazine
after,
part.
you know, painting them, I started kind of customizing them and wrenching on them. And then, you know, just kind of doing air quotes, custom sport bikes, you know, the wide tires, all the crazy shit you would see at like Myrtle Beach Bike Week and stuff.
The stretch swing arms, all that
because
stuff.
like I was saying, there wasn't a big market for it and I'd already kind of invested years in it. And so by the time 2010 rolls around, like I'm the guy in almost Texas for a while to build these things. And still not like, it's still not making the money that I want, but you know, I'm making really cool bikes. I'm paying the cool tax, right? I get to do something really cool. You're not going to get rich off of it, but goddamn, it's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
are you solo at this point? At this point?
Yeah, I've always pretty much been a solo.
Holy shit.
I've had like helpers here and there, but I wouldn't say I'm a great boss to work for. Kind of an asshole.
You're perfectionist. Yeah. You're perfectionist.
I just, you know, they say you're never going to find someone that's going to care as much as you do. And, the problem is like,
it's the truth.
Right.
I don't know how to incentivize. I don't know how to make someone else want what I want. You know what I mean? Or how I want it. And I don't know how to make them feel like they're going to get what I also want if they help me get what I want. You know what I mean? So I'd rather just,
correct.
You know, I'd rather just find, you know, that's a different thing. But yeah, no, I've customizing and building bikes was something I started to really enjoy, and being able to also paint it just added a layer of more my hands touching it, also more of, you know, I could now help design the bike and the paint job go together instead of having this other entity in the mix that we're trying to make the paint work with what this guy's doing and what this guy wants.
Right.
You know? And we had a good thing going.
Right. It's your own vision.
It's the exact opposite of being boxed in with a Motel 6.
It just opened the doors, you know, and then that grew and it started getting really big for us. And I eventually had some people come along that wanted to invest in my brand, which at the time was called Live Fast Customs. And
Live Fast Customs.
You know, a close friend, and then they worked at a Honda dealership, and they had this really loaded dude come in that just wanted anything that was cool, you know, and they were building all out, you know, Gen 2 Hayabusas, and then we were customizing them, and my buddy was like a badass mechanic, so he would build these things to the nines, like cammed out, like retarded fast bikes, and then I was the more cosmetic version of that, and we did a lot of work together, like not as a brand. Like I would send motors to him and he would send paint jobs and builds to me and things like that. And so when they had this rich guy come in there that wanted to kind of be a part of and build like a brand, I already had a dope ass spot on the side of the highway in one of our highways here. And
nice. You had a good location.
Great location. Yeah. And it had the ability to be expanded into other buildings and have the whole property. And so they came along and
nice.
Honestly, like put like almost $1 million in it, you know, but at the time I was 29, you know, and for one, like I didn't realize how much money I was actually making because I wasn't really doing anything correctly by the book, you know, tax wise, stuff like that. I was just kind of like, hey man, like money comes in, I pay bills.
It's coming in. Yeah. Right. It's coming in. You're taking it in.
And so when they came in, they said, hey, look, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to make you you and him and this other guy who's going to be the salesman, we're going to be equal partners, 3 of us. And then this other money guy is going to have the majority, but we're going to give you like 60 grand a year salary. And I mean, dude, this is the first like time in my life I've ever had legit, you know, like I'm making 60 grand, like taxed, all that shit. I'm like, hell yeah.
Income.
Well,
Right.
I could barely live off that shit at the time. You know what I mean? Just like, you know, it was just, it was just kind of eye opening, like in that aspect of it. But, you know, the thing is that I'm pretty good salesman. You know, I'm honest. I know how to like talk to people. I know how to like listen to what they're looking for. And I know how to, as they're telling me what they want, I'm envisioning it in my head. You know, I have a vivid imagination, if you will. And
you're an artist,
the salesman guy was a fucking snake crook dude. I had a feeling at the beginning. He just, you know, he kind of like just, I don't know. I was like, man, I don't think you're like a genuine person. Like I just had a feeling. And lo and behold, like 6 months into it, me and that dude butted heads so much. I walked away from the entire thing, like nothing. I lost almost all my tools. I lost almost everything I ever had, you know? Yeah. That was.
You mean when you say you walked away from that building and left?
Yeah. I mean, I had to.
From that location, everything?
Yeah. So what's happening was the salesman was buddies with the accountant, and they were hemorrhaging money. Like here's 200 grand for the business. Here's 50 grand for me and this guy. And all of a sudden this dude's coming to work in like $800 shirts. He's going to UFC fights in Vegas. And I'm like,
Jesus.
You make the same money I do. How the fuck are you doing that?
Right.
The thing is like, the rich guy who he's still kind of around here every once in a while. And every once in a while I see him like, I told you, you didn't want to listen to me, but I'm not an ass kisser like that.
Yeah.
So I never really kissed his ass. I think he was used to having everybody really pamper him, and nobody was just like telling him like, yo, man, like you're not doing the right thing here. You know, he wasn't a man that like earned his fortune. He was born into it. You know, a lot of nepotism, all that type of stuff. So
kind of thing. Yeah.
Basically, you know, this dude just, you know, he just kind of was dumb with his money. And I tried to, you know, they started trying to pin the loss of money on my side of the business, you know, which made no fucking sense because I was the only side of the business making money. But, you know, it's like, I don't know how to make the paperwork and the numbers look like I'm the problem. That's what they did. So when they did that, before was
this before or after you left?
Yeah, and that's why they were, you know, that's why whenever I ended up leaving, I had to walk away and give my shares away, and I lost all my shit because they made it look like I was stealing, and I'm like, how the fuck I have no access to the money. How am I stealing? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, you know, there's something like a thief in my mind is like one of the lowest humans in period. So
hands down,
like the karma from being a thief is just not something I've ever wanted. My first Kawasaki that I told you about, I bought that bike and 2 weeks later it got stolen out of my parking lot. No insurance, no money to replace it, you know. So that's kind of the thing. I've never been that kind of guy. Even when I go to Home Depot, I will pay for each one of the nuts that I get, you know, the bolts.
Yeah.
I'm just not like.
Me too, man. I write them all down. Me too.
I'm not that way.
So
you
funny.
know?
No, karma's a motherfucker.
It is.
Man. It always has been. You know, it's like it always comes back.
So what happened with that? How did you clear your name with the rich dude?
The good thing that happened is that at the time, and we kind of like evolved from the sport bikes to the big wheel bagger stuff because a lot of my clientele evolved in that direction. So the guys that were building these all out sport bikes, now they wanted, you know, the bikes with the stereos and all that type of shit on it. Now, early big wheel bagger stuff was a lot more, I guess, air quotes, cooler than what it became, in my opinion. It got pretty ridiculous. Wild. But back then there was still like some, like people were still riding them. They weren't turning them into like, you know, audio machines and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that was our customer base. And fortunately, I had built my personal bike which it wasn't a wild build. It was just, painted, tastefully done. And it got the cover of this magazine called American Bagger. And right when
Yep.
I remember when the cover came out was a week after I lost all my shit, and I had just, I still had like my airbrushes and like my core tools. I lost like my lifts and things like that. You know what I mean? My big stuff, the big equipment. And, I was like in this really, I wouldn't say dark place. I was just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And
you had everything, going, and then these fuckers showed up.
Yeah.
And then your whole life turned upside down, man.
Yeah. And so I just went back to what I did originally, how I started that brand is every paint shop that did custom paint, or every shop that I knew that could use my services, I just started going to them. Hey, if you need any airbrush work, and I used to do a lot of lowrider stuff back in the day too, like hood murals and graphics and things like that. So
that's killer,
I just
man.
hustled, and some of the.
Is there a big scene for that out in Texas?
Yeah, Texas has always had a great lowrider scene out here. You know what I mean? It really has been. It's also a very niche thing that to be in the high end side of lowriding, like you can make some good money, but the average place, like it's very feast or famine in that world. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But for me, like I was able to kind of just use the paint skills to kind of like start to rebuild everything. And the best thing that ever happened was the motorcycle industry saw what happened, and they also knew that this dude was a crook. So I started getting flown to different parts of the country to paint motorcycles. And that, I always tell people, this was the I guess darkest doesn't really seem like the right adjective to describe it, just the lowest, I guess, point. But out of that was absolutely the most best things that ever happened to me, because it changed. It almost like got shit out of the way and let me start my life over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's nice. So, it kept you busy, and you knew that there was a need for your services, which obviously is a great feeling that, these people are investing that kind of money, flying you all around. So that's cool, man.
Yeah. So what it did was it made me stop looking at Dallas, Fort Worth as like my marketplace, and started looking at the country. Right. And this is also right at the time when Instagram was becoming like the most used app. So it's 2014, going into, actually 2013, going into 2014. The Instagram is becoming this tool, and that is what people saw. And that's the people from Instagram and some of the Facebook groups. They started flying me out. They had shops that would, cause I could come and do the graphics and airbrush and just sleep on somebody's couch. I'm not real bougie in that way. And, it opened. I had East Coast clients, I had West Coast clients, and it just kind of made me like completely shift in how I looked at things. And I started marketing to a wider audience. And then after, getting myself back on my feet, it took about a year and a half to get back to where I could get another shop. And once I did, that shop had already folded, and found another shitty salesman, and then reinvested another $1 million. They changed the name. And then that shop comes back to me and starts asking me to paint all their bikes for them, and, of course,
did you take it?
Took their money. Fuck them.
Fuck yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And, they stayed afloat for a while, but when things started transitioning from the performance to the performance side of things, performance baggers, performance Dynas, FXRs, they didn't see it. They didn't care. They kind of lost interest at that point, and their brand just fizzled away, like a lot of them have. The thing is, like these industries, or these like subcultures, or these subgenres of motorcycling, like I said earlier, if you're the chopper guy and you're staying true to yourself, like you got to figure out how to stay afloat in all these different things. Right. But if you're in the biggest money making segment of motorcycling, and that thing's kind of fizzling away, and you want to still be able to make that money, you have to jump ship to whatever's going to be the next thing. And it sounds like super relevant. It sounds like something no man wants to admit to, is what it sounds like. you know? Oh, I've always been into this. You have all the, you know, the insecurities come out, like I said. But
Of course.
the truth is that, like, if you really love motorcycles, the big wheel bagger might have got you into bikes, but if you really like motorcycles, you'll start to have an appreciation for all the other styles and things that took
You
place.
better believe it. You better believe it.
If you live with blinders on,
Yeah.
and this is the only bike that's cool, it's the only thing that's ever going to be cool, then you're kind of like, your narrow-mindedness is going to be the thing that's going to keep your business from growing or even existing in the future. So,
Jace, let me ask you this, buddy.
Yeah.
The Fastlife kind of started out as a customization shop, but it became more of a lifestyle brand. When did you realize things were kind of evolving beyond just your custom work?
well, I'll back up a little bit. Like, the Fastlife Garage is a jab at Live Fast Customs. So as soon as I lost my brand, I just
Right on.
I just kind of called it the Fastlife, and it was never
The crew fucking
it was
name,
never
so-
a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're really about that life.
even when we were building big wheel baggers, we still rode them across country. I mean, I've ridden a big wheel bagger coast to coast, border to border. It's something that I'm glad I can say I did, because I know a lot of people in the future will never be able to say that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and then they provided a
Yeah.
great experience, you know, at the time. Like, those bikes, even today, like, you pull up in a parking lot, fucking people lose their minds. Like, what the hell? What is that? You know what I mean? But the lifestyle aspect of the brand, I don't know. I that wasn't by design. That was out of happenstance, I think. As I said, like, I like to ride bikes a lot. I love being a part of motorcycling just as much as you could say creating a bike or painting a bike or whatever.
Right.
And so when we decided to do a podcast back in January of 2018, you know, even then I still didn't think of my brand as a lifestyle brand, you know, and honestly, I don't really think of it as a lifestyle brand now.
Right.
You know, I feel like, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question the best way, or the most accurate way.
No, it's okay. Just do it with it. Just do it how you feel. I mean, what you're explaining is understandable.
This might help, Jace. What does a lifestyle brand mean to you?
Well, a lifestyle brand is a funny one, right? What came first, the lifestyle or the brand? You know? And I feel like a lot of lifestyle brands,
Right.
the brand comes first,
Yeah.
to exploit a lifestyle that they're maybe
That's
not
right.
living. Because usually when you're
Great
living a
insight.
lifestyle, you don't really think about
Mhm.
how to monetize it. You know what I mean?
It's just who you are.
Yeah, you're doing it, right?
Mhm.
And you know, the podcast, like, I guess maybe, like, I don't know if this is going to answer the question, but maybe it's been on my mind lately. Like, I never, you know, as you guys just heard, like, I'm a custom painter. I built bikes. That's been my life. It just so happens that this fucking app on your phone at some point made it more interesting to other people. You know what I mean? I didn't jump on
Right.
Instagram thinking,
Yeah.
you know, I want to be a brand ambassador or an influencer. None of
Right.
that. It's just what I inherently do
And you-
is visually, or was until Reels came along. It was people wanted to see it, you know? And then you start traveling places and you want to show them,
Yeah.
hey, this is me on PCH on my badass bike I built. And so I could see the lifestyle aspect coming into play, or the influencer aspect coming into play, but I'm just doing what we always did on social media. Like, I'm, you know, this is the bike I built and this is where I'm at on my bike. I would give it 4 thumbs up. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's it. It's like, you know, I've always tried to stay away from, like, you know, trying to blatantly sell shit to people. You know, one of the things I've adopted that I heard from a photographer that I'm a big fan of is, he wants to inspire, not influence. And that's kind of something I try to keep in mind. You know, I'd rather inspire people to want to to go try. Maybe having a custom motorcycle is an amazing experience. It really is. If your mind's in the right place, building it. Like, if you build a custom motorcycle with the intention of getting attention on being famous on Instagram or whatever, like you're kind of missing the point, and I don't think
Yeah.
you're ever going to get that scratch itch the same way. But if you build a cool ass bike and then you go do
Yeah.
cool shit like my man behind me on it, and you got cool ass memories, like it just makes your life more vivid, more rememberable, you know, or whatever. And
No, that makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah.
We were at our shop during the height of the bagger craze. We were still building frame off like 48 pan lookalikes with today's technology and performance, right? So everybody's like, why are you doing that, man? It's a one-seater bike, and you know, it's such a, you know, go stick in the baggers, man. I'm like, no, man, we build what we love, you know. It's like we don't want to be like everybody else. We want to do our own thing. So that was basically to what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, so there's, you know, kind of lost where the question was at on that one. Where are we at on the?
Oh, that was just basically the brand. Yeah, you got it. You got
The
it. Yeah,
lifestyle.
you answered it.
Yeah.
It's interesting too to think about the people who go out there trying to influence and try and, you know, they buy a bike to put out an appearance. And it's, if you go through like motorcycle keyword, for example, on Instagram, you look at the top pages, it's all dudes who are genuine, you know, and they're essentially capturing what's happening. People know that, people can feel that. And, you know, you get the impression quickly when people aren't really genuine and they're faking it. So it's that lifestyle side is really added to your business and your feel.
That the people that are not genuine are trying to mirror something in their life that is genuine, right? So the people that are trying to become influencers, they're trying to do what they've seen somebody else that is doing it. You know what I mean? In that way, it's like, you know, I mean, I have a brand. I need to make money to, you know, sell or to pay my bills, just to live, to eat, to be able to afford gas and do all the shit. But there's just certain things that, like, you know, when you've been here for a long time, right? I think about everything I do, and what would the people that I started that's been here for 20 years think about me doing this stupid shit, right? So, and what are people going to think in 20 years if I do this stupid shit? And not good business advice, but at the time, like, in my opinion, like the things that I love the most, the things I idolize the most is things like, you know, Arlen Ness, you know, like a guy like that, or, you know, the Indian Larrys, the people that were themselves, that still paid a lot of tribute to the environment that they're from and the life that they live and the people in their life. You'd always see, you know, when you look at, you know, Indian Larry, he had his people, his guys, his, you know, Paul Cox and you know, all the team, John the Painter, all these guys. And I wouldn't say I envy that. I'm inspired by that, because it's part of those bikes. Like, as much as those bikes were Indian Larry, they were also Paul Cox, and they were also John the Painter. You know what I mean? And so
Paul Cox is a talented guy.
And so those kind of things, like, I want to emulate that. I want to find my people to bring up with me, or to carry along or help them out. You know what I mean? You know, drawing a blank on the name right now, but Tom Fugel, which a lot of people don't really know about him, but the more and more that I find out through digging, because that's kind of how you got to do to find out about this man.
Absolutely.
He's literally one of the coolest motherfuckers that's ever lived on a motorcycle, in my opinion. You know, a lot of his life is depicted through David Mann's art. You know what I'm saying? And so, to me, it's like, you know, it might be a little arrogant to consider your legacy, but I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to live my whole life struggling to make it, I better fucking, I hope this world can at least make my kids think that their dad busted their ass to be something, or change something, or move something, you know, like the legacy.
You're a visionary, brother. I think I don't know how old your kids are, but I'm sure your daughter's old enough. But you know, it's just when you do what you love, as hard as it can be, but you still have that passion and drive to get up every morning to do it. That just passes on to the younger, to the kids, and then they see that, man. So it's not anything to worry about.
Yeah.
You know, think about, I don't think it's arrogant at all to think about legacy too. That's kind of like a inherent part of being a man, well, being a human really. And speaking of that, you'd mentioned in 2018, starting the Fast Life podcast. What was your push to do that? What pushed you to do that? And what is your vision for the podcast? What were you hoping to get out to the motorcycle community?
I wish there was some kind of grand scheme vision when we started it. It was just trying to turn microphones on from what we were already doing. You know what I mean? We were already hanging out in garages talking about the bikes that we want to build and the things we want to do and the things we've done and the opinions about said subject, right? So it's just basically putting a mic in the scenario. But my thing originally was my little brother used to work here with me, and I just thought it would be something that he could do and I could just fund it. You know, I could buy the microphones.
Right.
He made music growing up, so he was able to teach. He was able to do all the audio and create this stuff before there was like programs and, you know, podcast specific stuff. It would back in the day, you use back in the day, 7 years ago in 2018, you were using like just audio equipment, audio interfaces for like a band. You know what I mean? And so he was able to create all that stuff and do it. And I just initially wanted him to do it. I was going to continue to paint and try to build bikes. And then I don't half-ass anything I do. I'm not saying that I do things perfect or everything's amazing. I need to know that I did whatever I could the best of my ability. And my brother at the time just wasn't really interested in it. And I had already kind of said we were going to do this. And so I just wanted to see it through. And so I travel a lot to Northern California at the time and back. I'd paint a lot of bikes up there. I literally just drive up there and they would load up my Tahoe with like 5 or 6 Dynas and a bagger, and then I'd go home and paint them and then bring them back, you know, because I love road tripping. So it was like a perfect vacation getaway. And I get to paint cool ass bikes. Yeah. So,
you're making money at it.
The shipping, I mean, at the time, the gas, like it was easier to just drive up there than it was to ship them. And, you know, my brother helped out for many years until he kind of like started going a different way in his life and career. And then I just continued to double down on the podcast. And so to answer your question about like, I think that the podcast has like allowed me to grow a lot more because you're just absorbing all these opinions and ideas. And it's hard to be like staunch on how you feel about something because you talk to so many people that really can change your perspectives on certain aspects of being a man or fucking, you know, a business owner or whatever, you know. So I've tried to say
yeah, you have. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've had some pretty strong guests on your show from all kind of walks of life from the custom motorcycle industry. Are there any particular conversations that kind of, or moments that stand out for you that, can you get into a few of those?
I mean, literally one of the last podcasts I released was with this man named Josh Kerpius, who is a photographer, and he's actually a staff photographer for Harley Davidson. But he was also, in 2016, he was on this documentary called 21 Days Under the Sky. And literally like watching that in 2016 was like a shift for me where I knew I wanted to find a different type of motorcycle and a different culture to be a part of. And so that documentary kind of pushed me into more the choppers, the vintage period correct stuff. Not that I ever got into it, but it pushed me into that world. And it also pushed me into the FXRs and Dynas and the performance stuff, because I just, that was closer to the choppers than the big wheel baggers were at the time for me. And so, and he's the one that inspired me to pick up a camera. So like being able to now 7 years later or 8 years later, sit down at his home, he's known for being a very quiet person, to be able to have a 3-hour conversation in his living room and go ride with him and shoot him the way that he shoots. Like it was surreal to be able to do so. I mean, there's been a lot of great podcasts, but to be honest with you, like the ones that I've gained the most from are usually from the people I would say this, like a lot of the people that are attracted to the period correct vintage shopper stuff, there's an essence to like who they are and what they're interested in that brings out a lot more philosophical conversations and perspectives. And I would say in the last 2 years of me kind of leaning into that culture more and bringing them on the podcast, have been some of the best podcasts I've had, from Terry Shanks to my buddy Zach from Heavy, Max Schaff from 4Q Conditioning. Like there's so many great people in that space that have perspectives that I think that really can help other areas of motorcycling because they're so passionate about the type of bikes that they're on. And they're they're trying to like, they're trying to preserve a motorcycle that's, becoming more and more obsolete, you know what I'm saying? Or even a lifestyle, to be honest with you. So
yeah,
I found a lot of value in those podcasts over the recent years.
That's cool. That's cool.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical-grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the U.S. for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
That is incredible. Through your podcast, through your events, travels, everything, you've mentioned and touched on the impact of the motorcycle community. What impact
Mostly
has it had on you personally?
And heartache,
Nice. That's awesome, bro.
I've had to do a lot of soul searching this last year. I've had a lot of things kind of happen that were, that made me have to start thinking about and being honest with myself. And, I'm a very emotional person, emotional in a way, like not like I guess I could be a little bitch every once in a while, but the thing is that like
we all are.
The thing is that like the things that make me or that help me do things that are good or that help me get through life are also can be kind of like faults that I have. You know what I'm saying? Like I wear my friendships on my sleeve. If I become a friend with somebody, I don't read the room very well. And I think we're more friends than we end up becoming in reality. And sometimes like for me, like putting on events, it's like, the campouts we did for years, the bike night we've been doing for 7 years. You have expectations of other people and then they rarely get met. And that's something that one of my close friends, Tommy, told me this last year is like, and it's something you got to keep in mind is that the only thing you can control is your expectations of others. So while in my head, I'm trying to be this amazing friend and offer everything I have, if I can't expect anything other than what I'm doing, like I have to be content with, okay, you're doing that. You can't expect anything for that. And it's just, it's really easy to build scenes. It's really easy to get people together. It's hard to get people to always see eye to eye and stay together, like that's where the gatekeeping would be better these days. If people, like some of these scenes, like some of the things that I've got to experience riding a motorcycle, I wouldn't say they were easy to get, it wasn't easy to even know it existed. So now that like, everything is kind of at the click of a button, you can find out about anything. I don't think people appreciate the substance of what things are. Like, there's a Daytona and a Sturgis every year and another said rally in your hometown, but these small events that are very personal and very, you get to feel like you're like a part of something on a bigger scale. or you get to be a part of something in its early stages, like,
Yeah.
those kind of things are the thing that you want to try to show people. But, you know, that's what they really want in reality when I talk to people, but they don't ever want to take those jumps. They don't ever want to do that. They'd rather just go to, you know, Daytona and everybody gets a Airbnb and you just get shit faced for a whole week. They don't want to ride there because the experience of riding there is going to lay the foundation and the setting for all the experiences they're going to have in Daytona and the way they're going to have to ride back hungover. But, you know, I don't know, like, kind of veered off on that one, but, you know, I would say,
no, see, you're absolutely right.
If I was just to focus on myself and what myself is getting, like, it would be easier not to be emotionally invested in other people and other things. You know what I mean? You know, a podcast inherently is what you're building is a collective of giving people a chance to be heard through different, you know, through something they don't have. Right. And so when I did the very first podcast, I had zero audience. And now that I'm creeping up, about to release my 400th episode, I have built an audience over 400 episodes, 7 years. And that's not like Jace built an audience. It's every guest that was on helped build this platform that everybody can benefit from.
Absolutely.
And when you try to explain that to people, it's like, I think they don't understand the concept of it. That's the concept behind a magazine. It's like all the content makes the magazine more you know, valued and wanted, which then uplifts everything and everybody in the magazine, right? Same thing with a podcast. I'm just the common thing. I'm the one that's on all of them. So it's like, I think people often think that it's like I'm the one benefiting from all of this, and it's not really the case. You know, it's a collective of ideas and people and things that have started through conversations on podcasts, and they've already kind of run their course. But, you know, that's what this is. It's, if everybody, you know, puts a little bit of water in the pot, then it just grows and gets bigger for everybody, you know. But
That's right.
And that's the reason why, like, I you know, I'm willing to do other people's podcasts, because the more people that listen to them, the more people will eventually find mine, you know. And I don't even at 400 episodes, I don't, you know, some of them are kind of like dated to where, like, if you really listen to them now, they're not going to resonate as much as they would have if you listened to them in 2019, you know. But there's some podcasts that kind of like will stand the test of time, and they'll be staples.
You know what? But that's the beauty of this. What we do, we kind of document history and people and just things throughout the courses of life. You know, the years. You know, styles, all that stuff changes, but it's nice to see that documentation taking place. So yeah, it might be outdated because it's 2019, but you know what? 10, 15 years later, when somebody listens to it, that's a cool thing, because that might be back. You know, it always comes back.
We lost a friend of mine and someone that's been a big mentor for me. Is Jerry Covington passed away a couple of weeks back, and you know, this is someone that's one of the most, in my opinion, most successful businessmen in custom motorcycles. And, you know, meeting him, I've known him for years. I met him years ago, but getting close with their family and being able to go and paint for them, stay at his house, you know, sit on his couch and, you know, watch TV in his living room was a fucking honor, you know. And with him passing away, you know, very suddenly, you know, I'm very thankful that I was able to sit down in his home with his wife, Kathleen, and listen to capture their story of how they started Covington Customs, how they like bridged, you know, moved from California to Oklahoma and did all this stuff. And now it's there. And so not only the people in the motorcycle world can see, but his family can go back and listen to that, you know. That's something that I think podcasting can do. To me, that's a podcast that you can listen to that in 50 years if we're still here, and consume it and you know, kind of hear it from the horse's mouth. You know what I'm saying? So
capturing history is so fulfilling, and empowering maybe at the same time. We had a super similar experience with JP Chief Lilly from Baca. He had never really done a podcast, and he went through all these stories that who knows if he's even told his own family a lot of those stories that he shared with us. We got him for like an hour and a half, and we're going through editing, and as I'm looking up links for what I should be putting in our description to help people connect with him, his obituary popped up. He passed away just a few weeks after we did our episode. And then we got in touch with the family. You know, they were insanely grateful. They had all kinds of crazy political stuff going on with his
Bikers Against Child
Abuse.
Abuse.
Founded Baca. Yep. And so just capturing his perspective on all of that entire process, they got ugly in some spots. He potentially never would have been able to share. And we had the honor, like, just like he said, sitting on the couch and watching TV. It was an honor. It's killer.
Jake, let me ask you this. The Fastlife camp out and the Fastlife hood ride, the kind of unique events that you created, it's bringing the community together. What made you want to create these experiences and kind of like take us a little bit into each one?
Well, the camp out was in 2017 when I started kind of leaning into this vintage chopper space. I went to an event here in Texas called Giddy Up, and this event was, to this day, the most amazing event I've ever been to. It was small, it was grassroots, but they had a camping element that was on a separate place, and I'd never experienced that before that way. I just never experienced the way that it was. It was like everybody was camping and they had their own little parties in their own little areas, but everything, it was like one huge party that you can go be a part of everything and meet people. And it was just a absolutely amazing experience. And the thing about, if I was going to say anything like the vintage shopper world, they're better now, but they used to be very staunch on like, well, in this show, we only want, 84 and older bikes, right? Well,
right.
At the time, we were doing Dynas and FXRs, and the performance bagger craze was kind of in its infancy stage. And so in 2018, with some friends of mine here in Dallas that we did the bike night together, we're like, you know what, we should recreate that experience, but make it open to, the other type of bikes that are coming in. And then let's get rid of all the no vendors. No, we're not selling you anything. We're just trying to inspire you to ride your bike to this space, sleep in the dirt, and then ride home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for the performance bagger scene, it became like, for the early days, it became the staple of like all the guys that were kind of pushing that narrative in their hometowns became the people that came to the camp out, and they would take it back, to Massachusetts or Michigan or wherever they're from, and it kind of helped spread the vibe that we were all doing, because the early days of performance baggers was getting the bikes dialed in to ride hard miles, to rip as hard as you can, but also you're camping on it. You're doing chopper shit on it. Right. And that was the whole concept of it. And then, that lasted 7 years. This was the last year of it.
Wow.
I do like the fact that things end, because then, people, in my opinion, they'll take advantage of the fact that there's another one next year. And I don't, my whole motto in life is not that. I want to know what this year was like and next year is going to be like. I don't want to just wait till next year. You know what I mean? And
right.
So the camp out was a great thing, and it brought a lot of people together. It helped a lot of businesses get footing, because they were able to go there as an individual instead of like the person trying to sell the products that they made or they did. And it was able to give people a chance to kind of connect with the community in which they were going to be selling to, or whatever the case may be. And then, like I said, great event. I'm so glad it took place, and, I'm also glad it ended, and, in a way that like it'll be remembered, hopefully,
How long did that one last?
7 years.
7 years.
And so the hood ride was kind of like at the time I had an apprentice here at the shop that was into stunt riding, and all his buddies were pretty good and they were doing some cool shit, but Dallas wasn't really on the map for the stunt scene. So for us, it was like, well, maybe I can use our brand and just the attention that it, whatever it has, to host this event for all these stunt riders to be able to showcase their shit. And
That's
so
cool.
we used some of the sponsors to kind of highlight it, and just did this ride. And it's all legal, it's all shit we shouldn't be doing, but it's also,
Right.
in my opinion, that younger generation that's into that stuff, that's this me. It's kind of before me, or it's younger than me. It's my way of trying to help uplift them and give them,
Of course.
whatever it is that we have. I don't have
A sense of community from all different aspects doing the same thing.
like, I don't have money to give people, and that's one thing. Like, to our conversation before we hit record, it's not that I want the older generation to give us money. I want them to provide us and help create opportunity. And that's what I was trying to do with the Hood Ride, is to create opportunity for these men who are out here doing wheelies and riding to be seen by the brands that I got to come out and support it. Also, all the content that gets made on it helps highlight these individuals. And then what they do with that opportunity
Absolutely.
it's on them, So, it was a good thing. We're not really ever going to do it again. The stunt scene's kind of like, I don't know. It's I'm sure it's still thriving and going well, but it just seems like it's starting to run its course in the Harley culture. I know it's bigger in certain
Gotcha.
areas, and I know there's still dudes that do really well, but from what I'm knowing through conversations with some of the OGs in that space, it's like there's not really, the juice isn't worth the squeeze at the end. Like, all the tickets, the felonies,
Understand.
the issues that come along with it, the broken bikes. And then at the end of it, the sponsor drops you because the chick with the big old boobs is doing a review on the new headset gets the opportunity. You know what I mean? And that's I guess that's why men are getting tits now.
That's right.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, switching gears real quick, you don't just talk the talk, you ride the ride, and you've logged so many miles on your bike. We're curious what specific trip, or you can name a couple if it fits, but what trip really holds a special place in your heart and makes,
every
what makes
year
it
I do a trip with my close friends, the guys that I started the camp out with, the guys that I've been doing bike night with for 7 years, and we've just about ridden every state other than the two far away ones. And those are very special and memorable because of like where we became friends and how we've kind of evolved and kind of the places we've touched and been and the stories that we've gotten from these places. Those are very special. They always have been, they always will be. And trying to continue to do that with these gentlemen for the rest of our lives is the hard part, because we're all kind of growing in different directions.
Of course.
Sure.
This past summer is the longest trip I ever did. I did 7 weeks on the road on the FXR, and
Killer.
that was
Where'd you go?
just all over the country.
Nice.
It was an amazing trip. I struggled a lot of the trip with feeling pretty selfish, because being a father and a husband and all that type of shit.
Right. Being away.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that I think kind of plagued me in certain areas. So I didn't get to really enjoy certain parts of it the way that I wish I would have. But at the same time, I don't want to blame my family because I didn't enjoy my trip. You know what I mean? But it just, like I said, it was an amazing trip that I wanted to make something from. And, now that I'm on the back end of that trip, I'm starting to look through my footage and photos and try to put something together for that. But
Killer.
yeah, it's, I wanted to do it. I've rode road glides for the last, 10 plus years. And a lot of people, the common question that gets asked is like, why the hell I would want to do the biggest trip I've ever done on a bike that only has a sissy bar? And, there's no logical explanation for it, but the truth is, it's like, if you've traveled the country on a road glide, at first it's hard because you don't know what you're getting into, But then after you've done it a handful of times, like there's no
Mhm.
challenge anymore. It's like, you
Right.
you have shit in your bags that you don't even touch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You never even
Right.
use it, but it's with you. And it's like the
Yeah.
thing about
Overpacked. Yeah.
the thing about doing on the FXR was that it was forcing me to get off the main highway. It was forcing me to see the back roads. It was forcing me to be
We're just killer.
more methodical about the things that I bring on the trip. There's no gauges.
Yeah.
I do have my phone up there in case I need to see how fast I'm going and shit like that. But you're just not distracted. You're literally just taking in every aspect of the motorcycle trip. And for me,
Right.
that to me, I think that being able to have experienced it that way, it was just an amazing, thing in itself. Really don't know how to put it. It's like if you have to enjoy motorcycling with your 2 to 4 weeks of vacation a year, I don't blame you for not wanting to go try this stupid shit. You know what I mean?
Right. You take the comfortable
Go get the
bike and go
experience.
enjoy.
Go get the experience. But
Correct. Agreed.
if anything, the privilege of being a part of the motorcycle industry and the culture for so long is that, and doing podcasts and talking and hearing other people's journeys of what it was like on this type of bike. I want to, I always tell people I have a wanderlust for experience. You know what I mean? So not as much as I want to be able to say I've been to Europe and Australia and Japan. Like I want to say I rode to that spot. I want to have ridden and carted that Pabst Blue Ribbon bar in Milwaukee with the locals.
Bro.
Like
That's right. Yeah.
just those weird experiences like that. I like that shit. That to me, that's the old gray beard at the wherever the Harley dealership, wherever they hang out nowadays. It's just full of stories. Like to me that's a life well lived.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And you get more stories when you challenge yourself to go out on the road. Like some people do the Hoka Hay and they go ride these insane miles in the same in the same time, and they put their body through this insane, like, strenuous work to go accomplish a goal. And honestly, there's part of that like I'm interested in. I would like to try the experience. But the same way, riding a bike that's not as comfortable, it doesn't have as much wind protection and storage and amenities, like
Creature comforts.
it challenges you to figure out how to do it. And the best part is, like, when you're you pull up to any place, any bike event, any Harley dealership or anything, and you get the old guys come out, maybe not old guys, just people in general, opinionated people. You can't ride that bike anywhere. And then they walk around the back. They see I'm in Texas, I'm in Massachusetts. It's like, well,
right.
joke's on you, bud. So, like,
That's right. That's so funny. No, you're right. Crazy. Hey, you often collaborate also with creators and bike builders. Do you remember like a collaboration or a project that you really pushed you to use your creativity beyond what you are normally used to?
Yeah, I mean, the FXR that I'm talking about, I did the trip on. There was a whole build process that it's the first bike that I've ever built that I will never sell. Like, it'll never be for sale. And
what do you have for motor in there?
it's a 103 twin cam. It's a 1984 frame. So because I wasn't going to sell it, it literally was the most freeing bike build I've ever done, because I'm not thinking about how much money I'm spending, if it's going to be something somebody wants to buy. Like, I'm just building for myself, which was an amazing experience. But even better, like I said, I knew I was going to do this 7-week trip, so I wanted to find a way to make this bike more memorable. And so I had a lot of really close friends, like, bring their talents into the bike to help me build it. My buddy Hazmat Designs is here. He helped me build the studio years ago.
Cool.
But he
that's cool.
He did some, like, he helped a lot on the bike, but he did this, like, cool bead rolled panel with our logo in it and some other cool shit on the bike. And the guy that did pretty much all the fabrication, his name's Corey. He's from Main Drive Cycle. He's a guy here in Dallas. He's like one of the most famous unknown bike builders there is. You know what I mean? for his style and cleanliness, and I learned a lot from working with him. And even the next project that we're gonna do, it's gonna be more kind of like this along the same lines, but instead of him doing it, it's gonna be me doing a lot of the fab work. So I'm really excited about that part.
Awesome, dude. So you get to work. That's cool.
And so that bike in general was the most memorable. I mean, I've been very fortunate to have some pretty cool bikes in my lifetime. Obviously, you know, it's because of like what we do to the bike to make it, you know, cool.
Of course.
My first FXR that I built in 2017, that was a life-changing bike. You know, the building that bike and doing the things that I did on it, like really, it did a lot for me as a person and me as a brand. You know what I mean? It helped my brand establish itself in this next, like in the performance motorcycle scene. It gave me some credibility within the FXR community.
Nice.
And it, you know, like I said, every time I build an FXR, I really build one. It fucking changes my life, you know. The baggers I've had, you know, I have a really close friend that bought my most like personal bagger that I've ever built. And, you know, that bike was, you know, I did a lot of trips, a lot of firsts on that bike. And then once I knew I was ready to sell it, I was able to sell it to a gentleman that has since become literally one of my biggest mentors and a huge friend in my life. And, you know, he even said that whenever he passes away, he's gonna will it back to me, the bike.
That's killer.
Which I didn't know was an option. So, but no,
what was the bike? What was the bike? What year was the Road Glide?
It was a 2019 Road Glide that we bought in 2018, right when they came out. And you know, I rode it for, you know, I had like 55,000 miles on it when I sold it, but it was like we did a 131 in it. Like I rode, you know, Manhattan during COVID. Like the streets were empty on this bike. Like so many first experiences on that motorcycle, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like it's that paint job that I had on it. It's the customization that was done on the bike, and all the places I was. It just makes the memories and the pictures and the videos so vivid.
Right.
Of that experience. And then the great thing is, like on this trip I did this summer, the 7-week one on this new bike, I rode to his house in Washington, and he spent a week and a half with me on that other bike, riding all through like Glacier and Montana and all that stuff. So cool. You know, it's like I said, I'm definitely a sentimental person. Like I have, you know, I'm the guy, you give me something, I never get rid of it. Like it goes on a shelf or whatever. So
right.
There's just a lot of sentiment that comes to that. And like when I do things, I like to attach it to some kind of like a memorable thing, you know, try to make it a very vivid, you know, memory. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So as the Fastlife brand continues to grow, what is on the horizon for you? Do you have any future plans or goals that you're chasing? I know you said you're goal oriented.
I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. I did like 13, I think, vlogs last year when I was building this FXR and some of the trips I'd done. And so I like making videos. I don't like algorithms. I don't like that. I want to make stuff that I'm proud of, and I want to put it out regardless of if it's quick enough for the algorithm to pick it up or if it's trendy enough or whatever. Like I just want to make things that I feel like represents me and my brand and the message that I want to put out. So I really want to get back into making some videos to kind of showcase aspects of the world that I'm getting to live in. I have like 3 bike builds that I want to do. I don't know which one's going to be the one that happens first. But you know, I'll let, one's another FXR. It's a full M8. I want to do a full like modern resto mod style FXR that's got it's all original OG like fairings.
That you're talking about like the ST version?
Well, no, I have an 84 RT, so full fairing bags, all that stuff. And I want to do an M8 motor, whole drivetrain, fuel injected, all the bells and whistles of a modern bike, but with the old school tins.
The look of yesterday. Yeah. That's killer.
Corey and I are probably going to collaborate again on I'm kind of on the hunt for like a mid 90s Softail.
You talking Corey Ness?
No, Corey from Main Drive. Sorry.
Oh, Main Drive. Okay, sorry.
So we're wanting to do basically just chop an entire frame and build a hardtail frame out of a stock Softail frame and do an M8. And I really want to travel, do it like somewhat of a cross country trip on a hardtail.
Killer.
Just for the experience.
How old
42.
are you? 42.
Yeah.
You can still do
Yeah,
it.
that's why I'm trying to do it now before he gets too old. And then
Dude, I'm 53, bro. I'd be paralyzed.
And then I don't have any modern bikes right now, so part of me kind of wants like either a new Road Glide or a new Lowrider ST just to be able to, I'll definitely throw some stuff on it and customize it, but just being able to, hey, I need to run to California and do some podcasts. Like I want to have a bike,
jump on something reliable. Yeah.
And my wife and I, we bought an old 95 G20 van that we kind of want to do some. We want to set it up and do like an LS swap and make it more reliable and like do some our road trips in that. And like I said, the podcast, I have a lot of ideas and goals and dreams, but like my problem is when you talk about them too much on a podcast, it makes them harder to become reality. So I try to keep some of them close to the chest a little bit, but I also, man, I'm always I try to always like read the room, like what's the industry going through, like what's the vibe right now, being fortunate enough to be able to travel to all these different parts of the country and hang out at people's bike nights and houses, and you get to kind of see or hear how they feel about what's going on. So like right now, I think a lot of the people that's been building performance baggers for the last 6 or 7 years are kind of bored with it, even though Harley just came out with a really great bike to build, a great platform. It's still, there's still a lot of people that spent $70,000-$80,000 on a bike that's now worth $20,000,
Right now, if that. So it's just same thing the choppers went through too. So
I think that's going to stunt the growth a little bit in that scene.
Agreed. Jace, let me ask you this, man. You personally have influenced a lot of painters from the custom scene, just through your work through the years. Is there anybody out there who kind of inspires you, or somebody that you follow that you feel has got a great future for this industry for the later years, next generation?
Paint world, I would say that like there's lots of people coming up that's got that they got it. They got they're putting in the work, and there's almost too many to count, but the thing is, like I was saying earlier, they're getting there quicker than we had to. Just, there's more information. It kind of makes it more available. But no matter what, like, no matter how much you can gain, how quick you can gain, it's still a time-based, you still got to put your 10,000 hours into the paint game to be well-rounded, to be able to have done enough to have like all the possible problems come and you figure out how to get through them. That's what time does. As far as me being inspired by, like, I like to think that like the guys that like my peers in the industry, the Lucky Strikes and Taylor Schultz and Brian Lokers and Poland Designs, like I can name so many painters that every day they post something. I'm like, fuck. How can I keep up with these guys? They're so badass, And don't even get me started.
That's cool.
Don't even get me started about what they're doing in Japan and Thailand right now. Those dudes are on a whole nother.
I know, man. I know. I've been watching some of that shit. Holy
they're on another
smokes.
level.
There's some serious talent out there.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. It's awesome to see that the paint world is growing to such a crazy talent. And they're pushing the boundaries of possibilities with custom paint. but also like I don't know that I have the enthusiasm to try to keep up with that as much as I just want to continue to perfect what I know how to do and maybe slowly add a new thing here and there because, being 25 years old and, only needing to make X amount of dollars to pay your bills and, not having a wife and 2 kids at the time, it's like, it was easier to kind of experiment and fuck up. Nowadays, it's hard, a fuck up nowadays, they cost more. It takes more time. It's they say like, when you're young, you got the time, but you ain't got the money. And now you got a little bit more money, but you ain't got the time. So,
right.
That's right. That's a great analogy.
Yep. So that actually leads really well into another question for you. And you had mentioned reading the room, and, motorcycle culture is so rich with traditions and styles. So for your design philosophy, how do you balance staying true to those culture traditional items, but also bringing in fresh perspective and kind of new ideas?
I don't really paint a lot of choppers, if any at all, because my style is more derived from more modern looking stuff. I've always said that like my style is, if you take your traditional panel paint job and then you blend that with a lowrider style paint job, and then you throw a little NASCAR on top. That's my style. You know what I mean? It's like a racy graphic, but has the elements of traditional paint, but with points and not so much round edges. But at the same time, like, like designs, color combinations, like styles of things, they change with society, right? And I don't think a lot of people look this far into it, but even fonts, like a font that people use to like, advertise with, or their logos, like that changes with times. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we, like, I try to stay in the know. Like I keep up with tattoo culture. I keep up with, graphic design, like the way people design ads and things like that. And I keep up with color combinations that I think are becoming more, ideal for the times. Like who would have thought that like primer gray was going to be such a big hit in automotive and the motorcycle culture, but it's a testament to the, the loud colors. Like usually it, like if you go too far one way, it goes the opposite the other way. What is it? Newton's law. So basically if you get wild 80s colors, then you get to this muted 90s, right? And then the 2000s and 2000, the 2000s was more like wild colors still. It was an extension of what the 90s were, or it was evolving back out of that into the mini truck culture with paint jobs and stuff like that. But then like sign painting and lettering and leafing and that style really dominated the last 10 years of custom paint. I dreamed of being an airbrush artist. Like I wanted to be the baddest airbrush artist.
Seriously, that's incredible.
And then it's a dead kind of thing. Nobody wants airbrush anymore. Nobody wants skulls and naked chicks on their bikes anymore. You know what I mean? So this thing that the first 10 years of my career, I spent trying to perfect a craft that I don't even use anymore, And so it's.
Yeah.
You do, you really?
It makes me think of the graphic design. You mentioned graphic design and thinking about the trend in the late 2010s where all these Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies went back to flat design, like VW and Warner Brothers and all those. They had those 90s and early 2000s designs that had a lot of cool artistic touch to them. And now they're just this trend of flat. Like, hey, it's one color.
It goes extravagant,
no
minimalism,
shading,
back and forth. And I think that, like,
that's interesting.
When culture shifts, so does the way that, like, the advertising is as well. And looking at the advertising gives us a feeling of, okay, what's going to speak to people, And the problem is that advertising runs the world, right? That without it, you don't have anything. You don't have movies, you don't have music, you don't have anything. I mean, you'll have music and things, but like, without advertising, you don't have a place to hear music, So Spotify has to advertise for that
Mm-hmm.
place to be there. The radio had to advertise for music to have a radio station. So you need advertising, or that's just been the way that people have funded a lot of art for the last 100 years.
And the things have changed too. Is it's you only have where before, if somebody put some kind of an advertisement out, it was okay to watch a little bit deeper into it if it took maybe 30, 80 seconds, right around there. Now it's got to be instant.
Yeah.
It's got to catch our attention instantly, or people move on.
Yeah.
So it's you know what I mean. So that was the crazy part. Hey, listen, let me ask you this. Last question before we get into the speed round with you. I'm gonna break this into a 2-part question. Let's go. Most valuable lesson you've learned from your journey so far, and the second part of the question is gonna be, anyone chasing their own fast life dreams, another Jace or Janet out there that listen to this podcast and have that drive like you do, what kind of advice would you give them, if the advice you would have liked to have heard coming up?
Well, maybe I'll do the last question because it's fresh in my mind.
That's
as
fine.
far
That's
as
fine.
as far as like advice, man, I wish that I had a regular career job and I did all this on the side, because I wouldn't be as invested, I wouldn't be as emotional, I wouldn't be as stressed the fuck out all the time, whether or not like
Of course.
to even painting, even being a custom painter. Like if I went to a job every day that maybe I don't hate it, but I don't enjoy it the same way, then I come home and I do something I love. Like that contrast of life, of doing something that sucks to go enjoy something that you love, versus now it'll just all sucks because it's my job. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So like
Correct.
I don't wake up every day and go, man, I can't wait to go lay out graphics on that helmet. I can't wait, because it's the job. It's the thing I have to do regardless of what I want to or not. I wish that I had that contrast of like, a safety net of like a career or something. And then the free time to come home, get off at 5 o'clock every day. I'm home by 6 and, hang out with the wife and kids. And then bam, I'm in the garage till 11 o'clock at night, rather than watching TV or some shit, I think that like, as far as like, to be a little bit devil's advocate on that same answer, I'm 20 years of being invested into like trying to make it off motorcycles, trying to pay my bills through paint, or turning a wrench on a bike, or making a podcast about the bike, or taking a photo of a bike.
Right.
Like, I don't know that it's a great business model for like people moving forward. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I'd hate to tell people this is a great path. It's just worked out for me because I'm so deep in it, I can't turn back,
Right. That's fucking awesome, dude. I love it. That's about as honest people as you're going to get of an answer about, and what he's saying is exactly right, man. This is a passion, and when you're invested in it for 20 years, this is what you do regardless. So that's cool, brother. All right, let's go back to what about the valuable lesson you learned from your journey so far? Because your journey, you're only 42, man. You're still a fucking young puppy. But the continuation of the journey up to now, what's some of the lessons that really hit home?
Well, one of them is what I said earlier, is about managing your expectations. That's probably the biggest and most recent one that's really resonated with me. The others is just basically like, I think before we recorded, I said something about being insecure, right? When I was a young kid, like I was just insecure. I just, I'm not a man yet. I haven't built anything. I can't provide for my family. I rely on too many other things to get through life, and that inherently makes you an insecure person, or it can. Then you add in a couple really shitty relationships with some chicks that probably didn't help the situation.
Of course.
But also I see insecurity in people my age and whatnot. I see people who need validation through like what they choose to do with their bike, or they choose to live their life, or they choose to identify everything in their life. Like they're learning how to be secure with who you are is probably one of the biggest lessons. And it's a lifelong journey. It's not like you just wake up and, bam, I'm this way now. Like, no, it's like you have to identify these things in you and start, as you develop the sense of self-awareness of it, you start to identify these things when they come up and you nip them in the bud. And then eventually it doesn't become a part of your who you are, your psychology or your personality anymore. And I think that as much macho and cool guy shit is in the motorcycle industry, it's probably one of the most insecure places of men I've ever seen as well.
I've always said that, man. Always said that.
And
absolutely
finding,
right.
being aware of it, not saying you got to go shout it from your Instagram feed or story or whatever, but just realize when you are being insecure. And I notice it, and I was this way for a long time too. It's like, if we're at bike night and you showed up with Legend shocks and I had Olin shocks, I'm like, hey man, like, why didn't you get Olin's? Oh, well, I like this. I'm like, you're fucking with my insecurity right now. Cause now I want you to have what I have to validate what I have.
Right.
So, and you see this on Facebook groups and all this shit all the time. It's like people projecting,
so annoying,
I know shit that is just a sign of their insecurity. Oh, well,
that's exactly
so
right.
like, and like I said, I'm not saying, I'm saying this from a practiced individual. Like I definitely, I got rid of certain insecurities growing up in, my manhood, if you will. And then, now it's like, it's insecurities and like where I place in society with other individuals. And that's kind of like, that's been something it's just a work in progress. The same way that, being mindful of the expectations you have or you develop by doing the things you do. Like if I bring somebody on my podcast to do a podcast with them, and my expectation is that they're going to go shout it from the rooftops and they're going to shower me with appreciation. That's not reality. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing him a favor. He's doing me a favor. That's the transaction. I don't have a show if they don't sit over there, and they don't get to be on a show if I don't sit over here. So it's a mutual agreement, right? So developing expectations based on like grandiose ideas of what you think that you're doing better than what they're doing, or you're doing it for them and they should kiss your ass. Like those are things that I think a lot of men deal with that in time. You know what I mean? Especially as you get older and you get to a position where you can shine light or drop some knowledge or, even be the patron for that person. You know what I mean? Hiring them to do work or whatever. So.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Great answer, brother.
Being able to realize when other people are operating out of insecurity is also a hugely valuable skill. Like things make more sense once you realize that, they're doing that because they're insecure.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it's not something you want to just call someone out and be an asshole, but like I said, being aware, you start seeing it more, you start seeing it yourself. And then it's just another one of those things on the road to being a better person.
As you get older, it makes more and more sense. And you can, when you're young, you kind of mappish, you're quick. As you get older, more experience, being around more groups, different personalities as you go.
I mean,
you always have that one guy. You always got the guy.
Well, doing podcasts,
that's gotta come out.
Doing podcasts and being around so many people in motorcycling as most people are, you're inundated with like personalities. A lot of them have similarities. I mean, there's only probably like a handful of archetypes of individuals, but then there's the nuanced differences amongst them. But you start to kind of like notice certain things. That's all I was saying about like painting. Like I can kind of read the vibe if we're going to work well together if I'm painting a bike for you. Like if I can't please you because you're throwing question marks up whenever you ask me a question and I don't get back to you quick enough, I already know like you need more than I'm offering.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's like certain things that I look for in conversations with people, potential customers, or working on projects with people. And it's like, it's not that, and I'm being judgmental here. I'm just trying to avoid a shit show, which after you've had a couple shit shows in this industry,
and that's all experience.
Bro,
it's all experience, brother, for sure. Running your own business, being mean, sure, you've been in this grind for 20 years. So, I mean, you've seen it all. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. You kind of start to get quicker on the decisions when you start talking to people. You can read them quicker. You can understand whether this is going to be a good business transaction or a bad one if you continue with it. So.
Yeah.
All right, my man. You ready for the speed round?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try.
All right. Here's the deal, bro. If you answer all the questions in 2 minutes, then you're the champion. But if you don't, you got to paint Ben and I get 2 motorcycles. The best job you've ever done.
The odds are so stacked.
It's a fair deal.
Have fun. This is all good.
Yep.
All right, man. You ready? First question, what's your favorite motorcycle you've ever owned or ridden?
FXR Chopper.
Easy. If you could have any superpower while riding, what would it be?
While riding? Goddamn. Shit. They messed up my whole concept. I had a superpower I always wanted, but not while riding. I would say probably, I guess, superhuman strength.
Nice.
Let's go with that.
All right. What's your guilty
best
go-to?
place?
Oh, sorry, I skipped one. What's your favorite place you've ever ridden?
Favorite place I've ever ridden? Monument Valley, Utah.
Full. All right. What's your guilty go-to alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink, what's the favorite snack?
Guilty, probably whiskey soda.
Right.
So Jameson soda, it's my shit.
Yeah, JMO. Love it. All right. If you could time travel, which era would you go to and why?
Definitely the 60s and 70s. I want to know what it was like to drink and drive legally.
With no seatbelt on.
Yeah. No, to live a life with less
man.
regulation, less laws, less rules.
That's cool.
And that's just a perspective that I have. I don't know if it's true or not, but
Yeah.
a lot of great art came from that era.
Mm-hmm. And music. Favorite motorcycle movie of all time?
Movie, probably Harley Davidson, The Marble Man.
Nice.
If it's a movie, yeah.
Well, what's the other answer? You say documentary.
If it was like a documentary, I would say 21
Days
Days Under the Sky.
Yeah,
right on. We're gonna link that in the show notes too. I haven't seen that. Favorite hobby outside of motorcycles?
Photography.
Sweet. What kind of camera do you have?
I have a Canon R3 and a Canon R5.
Slick. Very cool. All right. If you could meet and have dinner with one person, past or present, who would it be?
Fuck. Meet and have dinner. I'd probably say I'd love to have dinner and have complete attention from Jesse James.
Yep.
Right on.
West Coast Choppers. Yeah.
I feel bad for making fun of his hat before the show.
Hey, you
now.
skipped one law.
No, it's all good.
Oh, yeah, I got it. So if you were president, what's one law you would change to impact the motorcycle community?
Lane splitting legal across America.
Right on. All right, if you could get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
Alice in
That's 2 in a
Chains,
row,
Lane
bro.
Staley.
Yes. Heck yeah.
That's 2 in a row. Our past
Yeah,
guest,
that's
the
crazy.
same thing.
What favorite album?
Favorite album?
Yeah, for
From
Alice
them?
in Chains. Yep.
I'd probably have to say the Unplugged album.
That's
Yeah,
a sick
too.
album.
Yeah.
That's absolutely jam.
Yeah.
What's the best prank you've pulled on a fellow rider?
I guess I'm not much of a prankster,
Not
so
a
I'd probably
prankster.
just say turning their shit off from the next lane over or whatever.
Classic. Okay, here's a fun one for you. What's the most memorable, whether it's funny or scary or whatever, place that you've spent the night on a road trip?
Oh shit! Northeast Memphis, after a compression release came out of my motor and stopped me dead in my tracks, and I had to stay at a hotel where obviously prostitution was taking place, and the shower didn't work, the water didn't work. It was just literally a hotel to go have sex in.
It
And
just
I
served
didn't
one
get to have
purpose.
any sex in there. But yeah, it was pretty sketchy.
Jeez. That's all right. If you could challenge anybody, could be a well-known person, could be a buddy, to a motorcycle race, who would it be and why?
A race? Race as far as like maybe a race across country, I would do that.
Could be
I would like to do
touring
it.
or drag, yeah.
I would like to get someone like Ryan Cruzy to go do a cross country travel, a race, if you will, more cross country travel. You know, that's like I said, I'm not much of a racer or into that, but
Are you a fast rider normally,
yeah.
or do you just enjoy it and you just ride?
I'm not the fastest in my group by
But
any
do you
means,
ride hard
but
when you're riding? Are you always
it's
fucking
kinda-
on it over 100?
It depends. No, not over 100. It depends. I like to get
Right.
it in
Pick
whenever
your
it feels
poison,
right,
yep.
and then
Yep.
take
Got
it
it.
in when
I'm
it
the
feels
same
right.
way.
Yeah,
She said.
yeah.
All right, last dinner ever, what would it be?
Probably some good Cajun food.
Ah, cool answer. All right, what is
Yeah.
good Cajun food to you? What's your go-to dish?
Man, a good jambalaya, or
Yeah.
I'm not really a crawfish fan, but like a chicken
Right.
etouffee or something like that.
Nice.
You know,
Good stuff.
Cajun
I like
spice.
Cajun spice. So
Heck yeah. All right. Besides the One Gang Worldwide podcast and the Fast Life podcast, what's your favorite podcast to listen to?
I would have to. I got to give credit to my man Danger Dan, because he's the one that helped me get my podcast going here 7 years ago. So between his podcast and the GOAT Rogan,
Absolutely.
got to listen to
Uh-huh.
Rogan. Yeah, and I love Andrew Schultz.
I like Andrew
and the
Schultz,
Flagrant
too.
Yeah,
podcast.
yes. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, you
shit.
made it through.
Non-painted
You
bikes.
survived.
Fuck.
1 minute and 59 seconds.
Son of
We're
a
not
bitch.
getting
You
bikes.
did
Yeah.
it.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jace, in all sincerity, brother, thanks so much for taking the time, man, coming on. Awesome to get to know you. You're a hell of a guy, man. You can tell you're a stand-up dude. And we're excited to follow your journey, man, as you continue to fucking ascend up into the sky with not only your work, but everything you're doing. So I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate the kind words and the opportunity here. And I wish you guys all the best and
Thanks,
what you guys
brother.
got going on here with the show.
Thank you, brother. You're a genuine man, easy to follow. So we'll be tracking with you. We appreciate you, Jace. Be
All right,
good,
thanks,
brother.
guys.
See ya.